So what I want to put forward to you to start the conversation tonight are really three main claims. First, opportunities for global citizenship, while manifestly greater today, confront two important barriers. The first relates to the general problem of extending democracy beyond national communities. The second, I think, is the embryonic nature of this term, the international community, that we like to use, and its selective application of cosmopolitan principles. Next, I want to argue that the concept of the North American citizen, which we've seen arising in the context of continental integration, is an inherently problematic concept. My third and final claim is about one particular nation state, the nation state of Canada, and its role in global politics. And what I want to do tonight is suggest that we shouldn't think of Canada in those traditional terms as a middle power, but rather in terms of citizenship. And in fact, I believe that Canada has the potential to be a model citizen for the 21st century. Now, before developing those three big claims, let me take a moment to define what I'm talking about. While discussions of citizenship typically begin with a nod to the Greeks, my own understanding of the concept is indebted to the work of the British sociologist T.H. Marshall, who was writing at a very exciting time, post-45 Britain, when we were designing the welfare state. And Marshall defined citizenship as a status bestowed on those who are full members of a community. A status bestowed on those who are full members of a community. So although citizenship is something that is given to individuals, it's a fundamentally social concept. It doesn't make sense outside of a collective framework. And citizenship is also underpinned by an egalitarian ethos. Those who have that status enjoy de jure, if not always de facto, equality with respect to its corresponding rights and duties. Now, in the 20th century, we've seen citizen rights extend from the 18th century narrow concept of equality under the law to very serious entitlements that are associated with our welfare state. But even the expanded list of citizenship rights that we've seen only provides a necessary condition for citizenship. Whether actual participation takes place and what particular shape it takes depends on what citizens make of their rights. And that's also a message I want to leave with you tonight about acting on your citizenship rights. So my first of the three claims begins at the broadest level, with the possibilities for citizenship on a global scale, or what my predecessor Pico Iyer called global souls. With the end of the Cold War, a new spirit of optimism took hold about the potential to transcend borders and build a truly global society. And I was fortunate enough to be standing at the Berlin Wall on that chilly November weekend in 1989, watching jubilant East Germans climbing through the ad hoc openings that had been chipped away by their Western co-nationals. For me, their actions were the ultimate symbol that boundaries are social and political creations. And as with all such constructions, they can be redrawn. These were heady days, the early 1990s, and with them came great expectations. Foremost among them was the hope that governments and international organizations would set aside old ways of doing things and turn their attention to forging solutions to pressing global problems. Others dared to dream even higher and painted a picture of cosmopolitan democracy and global citizenship. So democracy would flourish not only within nation states, but also beyond them, so that individuals, wherever they happen to be located, would be granted a voice and input into the decisions that affected them. Now, 15 years on, how has this vision fared? Well, on one level, that of global civil society, there's cause for some optimism. Networked individuals working across the globe have created a dizzyingly rich tapestry of associations and communities of interest, some of which have succeeded in recasting global politics on issues like climate change, HIV/AIDS, or the ban on landmines. And these transborder civic associations have created new channels for popular participation, new modes of consultation with the public. They've also helped to increase the transparency and accountability of international organizations. But we shouldn't exaggerate the effects of this global activism. Global civil society is very much a work in progress, and it suffers from problems of inadequate representation and class bias that taint its cosmopolitan aspirations. But more significant than these challenges, which arguably we could overcome, is the broader problem of fragmentation in our contemporary world. Alongside the familiar divisions that we all know between nation states and the developing and the developed world, we're seeing new kinds of divisions that limit our capacity to realize a truly cosmopolitan vision. A division between skilled and unskilled labor that pits farmers against investment bankers, textile workers against consultants. A division between those who have the luxury to exercise their right of free movement and those who are denied the right of asylum. And a division between those who live in zones of peace, Canada, United States, Western Europe, and those who live in zones of turmoil, such as sub-Saharan Africa. So where is the egalitarianism that is meant to underpin citizenship? And what kind of redress is available to those on the losing side of these kinds of divides? Is globalization helping or hurting them? There's a strong argument to be made, I think, that globalization has exacerbated the problem of public alienation because it's made the locus of political responsibility a moving target. When ordinary citizens who have been left behind appeal to their governments, their politicians claim, "My hands are tied by the markets, by the IMF." And when citizens try to confront these forces, they have difficulty finding a source of accountability. So surely then, one of the greatest tasks of those in my generation is to create mechanisms for legitimacy in governance structures at the global level. But we must not delude ourselves. We're not creating democracy, and we're not nurturing global citizens. To put it another way, legitimacy and democracy are not the same thing. This isn't because we lack imagination or will. It's because democracy's boundaries, I believe, are limited. In my mind, democracy requires three things: regular, institutionalized debate, the ability to remove your government without a revolution or bloodshed, and the direct involvement of all citizens in a community. So it's a civic republican conception of democracy. It requires citizens who take an active part along with others in shaping the future of their society. It's not about a set of rights alone. It's whether we act on those rights. And once we move beyond the nation state, I think the conditions for that kind of deliberation, that kind of expression of collective will, no longer exist. Indeed, it's challenging enough for many nation states to realize those conditions. Now, let me hasten to add, I'm not counseling inaction. Establishing and maintaining institutions at the global level is going to be a huge challenge for those of us moving into the future. More and more issues are going to be dealt with at a global level. But our system for managing these is unlikely to be democratic in the way I've described it. Instead, I think it's likely to involve strengthening the rule of law in areas like finance and the environment, expanding the activity of international monitors and auditors, and increasing the transparency of decision-making. But in all these dimensions, the nation-state is still going to play a crucial role.